Hi, this is Jeff Granzow, and you're listening to Chuck versus the Podcast.
Hi, my name is Graham Jones, but you can call me Gray. This is my show. It's about Chuck. It's filled with interviews, the latest news, crazy co-hosts, and spoilers that'll make your day. Oh, wait, I need to go back. I host these TV nights. They used to be pretty boring, but everything changed when I found NBC's new show, Chuck. Pretty soon, my TV night got pretty crowded. Guys I didn't even know were showing up the door. Big, important guys. Really scary, nasty, get killed for hosting them guys. Next thing I know, these super episodes are downloaded into my brain, which means every moment of my life, I'm thinking about Chuck. ChuckTV.net sent their top people to protect me. That's Mel and Liz. They're pretty zany. They co-host with me now, as a cover. So now I must welcome you to Chuck versus the Podcast, the #1 TV podcast for NBC's Chuck. This is Gray.
This is Mel.
And this is Liz.
And we want to welcome you to Chuck versus the Podcast, episode 35 for Friday, December 25th, 2009, otherwise known as Christmas Day. How are you guys doing?
Good.
Pretty good. Ready for the holidays to come and go.
Yes, trying to remind myself to enjoy them while they're here.
Well, at least this time we have something really cool to look forward to.
Yes, we do.
And this is also part 2 of our editor series featuring editor Jeff Granzow. So we're super excited to be able to have the interview with him that I taped actually before my LA trip. We're going to have that at the end of the episode. Well, why don't we get right into the news, because there's a lot of cool stuff going on.
There's some good stuff as the promotion train keeps rolling for Chuck, which of course debuts on season 3 debuts on Sunday, January 10th, with 2 episodes, followed by 1 episode on its regular night and time Monday, January 11th. So we'll be getting 3 episodes in 2 days.
Mm-hmm.
We got the promotional stills for those first 3 episodes this week. We got our first looks at Chuck, Sarah, Casey, Awesome, and Ellie. And it was nice to see them. Hello, old friends.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you can see those at chucktv.net. We've got them loaded for you. There's some intriguing glimpses of what's to come.
Mm-hmm.
We also got a sneak peek at a scene from the premiere episode, courtesy of Michael Ausiello from EW.com. And, they just keep whetting our appetites for more, getting us ready.
Yeah, speaking of sneak peeks, this week not only Alan Sepinwall, but Mo Ryan just couldn't wait to release their preview reviews of the first 5 episodes, because everybody's getting, well, not everybody, but a lot of people are getting the first 5 episodes of the season from Warner Brothers in a press kit to preview. And so he's obviously, there's a few spoilers in there, but not too many. And in general, he's just raving about how awesome the episodes are going to be. I saw a couple of them. And I know, I think Mel got the press kit already.
Mm-hmm.
And they're awesome. We'll talk a bit more about those in the spoilers.
Yep. And you can also, by the time this is released, you'll see my formal write-up. My advanced review will be on chucktv.net. So you can go there for a little more info about what to expect in Season 3.
Yeah. And there's lots of other stuff that's going on. I urge you to listen to episode 34 of the podcast if you haven't yet already. There's lots of news on there about Chuckfest, about the YouTube contest, about the marathon that's going to be on Sci-Fi on January 7th, the Season 2 release date on January 5th. Just a ton of stuff going on. So there's an encapsulated news briefs section on that podcast that will tell you all you need to know about all that stuff. However, do be aware that there's a very important change, and that is that Chuckfest will no longer be in San Diego. Because of some early responses that they got from the fans, it was decided pretty early on that they were going to move all of the activity to Los Angeles. And so January 9th and 10th for Chuckfest, if you want to go, I urge you to go to weheartchuck.com for the latest details. You can find out everything you need to know on that site, and basically it just means a bigger party in LA. But do be aware of that change. So what you heard in podcast 34 will need to be updated with the new information from weheartchuck.com, which is that Chuckfest is only in LA, January 9th and 10th.
Gray, are you going to enter the YouTube contest?
You know, I've been toying around with ideas. I really want it to be creative. and I certainly have the editing capability, but it's just a matter of time. I do have some work I have to do over the holidays, so I'll see. I'd like to, but I don't want to do just a plain old one. I'd like it to be something really creative.
I was thinking about finding some of my brother's old G.I. Joes and taping the faces, of Sarah and Chuck and Casey on them and doing something. I was thinking maybe involving a plant and some silly string. I haven't quite got it all plotted out yet, but I think that's a winner right there, and nobody else can apply. I think it's just a given that I will win if I have all of those elements.
Yeah.
So, but I don't know. Again, with the time issue is what's really holding me back at the moment, but.
Yeah.
No.
Well, I don't know if you guys saw on YouTube, there's a guy who sings a song where there's 4, or I don't know if it's 4 or if it's 9 corners, and he sings this Star Wars song where he sings all the parts. I was considering doing something like that, like a Brady Bunch kind of thing with the different Chuck characters.
Fun.
That would be great.
Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, I hope this gets everybody's juices flowing, because that is a really cool, neat contest. And, of course, great prizes for all those contests.
Yeah. I wouldn't mind being in the Flash.
Yeah. Yeah. Or on the YouTube
or
Chuck
on the YouTube page. Yeah. Yeah, the Check Me Out contest where the winner gets to be in a Flash, that's pretty cool. But, again, the time issue, I just haven't really... We've been doing good to keep up with the Czech news as it's breaking, let alone play the games. So,
yeah.
We'll leave that to everybody else.
Yeah. Well, that's it for the news. We're going to roll right into the interview with Jeff Granzow. Want to welcome editor Jeff Granzow today. Jeff, how you doing?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing great, thanks. Can't wait to see the fruits of your labor.
Yeah.
But so grateful for you spending the time with us today. We're actually lucky enough to speak to all 3 of the editors, so we get lots of different perspectives of the editing process, and that's very exciting, because I know editors are kind of the unsung heroes often.
Some people say so. I pretty much see it as doing my job. I'm having a lot of fun doing it, and definitely been happy to work on this particular show for the last couple of years now, and see where things go from there.
Yep. So we'll go right back to the beginning. People always love hearing how people get into the industry, and actually there are a lot of people who listen to the podcast who are interested in not just the process, but sometimes also are aspiring to be doing what you're doing. So where did you first grow up?
I'm from Toledo, Ohio.
Mm-hmm. And that's pretty far from California. At what point did you decide that you wanted to get into television?
Well, I went to film school at Northwestern in Chicago, and I really kind of gravitated toward editing. I worked on a bunch of student films, and it just kind of seemed to fit with what I was trying to do, and so I really made a point in college of trying to, as opposed to trying to come out and just jump right into editing or directing, which a lot of my the people I went to school with were kind of hoping to do. I was really trying to focus on learning how to be an assistant editor and learning the technical side of things and the organizational side of things, and just did that as much as I could in college, while I was also cutting little student films and whatnot. So then after college, I did a couple of jobs in Chicago, but realized I wasn't really making enough money to support myself. Just doing little gigs here and there. So I went back to Toledo and worked at my dad's company for about 6 months to get some money together, and then head out to LA.
Cool. So, and you didn't think about New York as an option?
No, not really. I just figured that there was probably a little bit more opportunity out here.
Mm-hmm. Now, what was your first break once you hit LA?
Well, the first job, my first kind of Hollywood job was on the show called Together. It was on MTV. It was a cool little show about this kind of mock boy band. And, they had real songs and everything. And I got that gig through a guy that I had just sat down to at the DMV one day. He just started talking to me. I got him chatting with him, and he was an editor, and I remembered his name. He was actually at the DMV to change his last name.
Oh, you're kidding.
I actually looked him up in the phone book, which is, that was in 2000, so even in there, it's kind of like, who are you going to find in the phone book? I didn't figure he'd be listed, but he was listed, so I called him and asked him if I could send him a resume, just for the heck of it, and turned out that, he called me back a couple of days later, turned out they were looking for just kind of like a junior level assistant editor just to kind of like help them out with FedExing and things like that. So I started doing that, and then our first assistant editor on that show left, so I took that spot.
Wow.
And that got me into it was a non-union show, and if you get a certain number of days working on a non-union show, then you get to join the union after paying a hefty fee.
Mm-hmm.
And then so I did a couple of things here and there, nothing too big for the next year and a half or so. And then it was fall of 2002. I had an interview scheduled for on the Warner Brothers lot for Gilmore Girls, and as I'm walking out the door, the phone rings, and it's his editor Norman Buckley, who was cutting a show called Fastlane,
mm-hmm.
and he asked me if I wanted to come in and interview for that show, and I said, well, I'm actually heading up there right now anyway, so. Actually had 2 interviews, on the Warner Brothers lot within the span of about an hour.
Wow.
And Norman and I just really clicked. I had seen the show Fastlane. It was like 2 episodes in with my buddy here at home, my roommate, and I was totally digging the show. And he had interviewed a couple of people, and I guess he said I was one of the only ones that really came in and was really excited about the show and
mm-hmm.
wasn't like whining about like working particular hours and this and the other things. So yeah, we had a great time on that show, and then the 2 of us went over to the OC together, and he just kind of been my mentor through the Fastlane and the OC, and can't say enough great things about him. So I ended up cutting on the OC. Working closer with Josh, and then Matt Barber. I don't know if have you talked to the other 2 editors yet?
We've done a full interview with Kevin Mock. I haven't gotten Matt Barber yet, but I have spoken with him.
So Matt and I were both working on the show, and Matt also was an assistant on the OC who started cutting. Again, kind of under Norman's tutelage, and so we both went over to Chuck together, and he actually went back to an assistant role on the pilot of Chuck when Norman edited that,
mm-hmm.
and then the 2 of us started cutting that first season, which was the first couple of weeks into that season were just hellacious, just in terms of like grueling hours and everything, just because it was just the 2 of us at the time. Kevin didn't come on until I'd say 2 months into the process.
Oh wow!
So the whole time we're just saying, look, we can't do this with 2 people, guys. It's not going to work, and that whole situation really kind of screwed up our schedule for like the rest of the first half of the season. We were trying to play catch up and trying to get everything back on track, but we pulled it through.
Wow, you don't see it on screen, so obviously you managed to make it happen.
Yeah.
So what was your? I mean, it sounds like it was pretty crazy, but what was your first experience with Chuck? Was it did you see the script first, or did you see the pilot first?
I didn't see the script. I was on a lot for, I don't remember why. I was on a lot for some other reason, and I came by. They were doing the sound mix, and I saw like the first pass of the sound mix with the guys, and because I knew I was going to be working on it. And so yeah, my first experience was watching it on like the big sound mixing stage, on their big theatrical size screen, and it was awesome. I was totally stoked about it. And I mean, it definitely looked like it was going to be a challenge, compared to the OC, and it has been. The OC was tough, but it was especially kind of as I was kind of like learning the ropes and everything, cutting my teeth on that. But this show has just been a lot more challenging. And you can see it you can probably tell on screen why. There's just so much going on, but it's well worth it. Putting it together.
Yeah, well, I really loved the OC, and I can see that it would have been a great show to learn on. And particularly, you've got the sensitive drama moments, and you've also got some great comedy, which I'm sure really you brought to bear on Chuck. And then in Chuck, you've got all of a sudden action, and you've got a lot more sort of going on. But maybe you can talk about some of the differences.
Yeah, it was a lot of just like learning how to navigate the whole emotional, the emotional roller coaster, everything, playing the comedy and the drama and keeping it all excited on the OC and then once we got to Chuck, it was just a lot more involved. It's a lot more kind of shaping and honing, a lot of rejiggering scenes, moving them around. I think the episodes on Chuck have tended to be a lot longer for our first passes. Like on the OC, we had to come in probably, I think, around, well, both shows we had to come in around 42 and a half some odd minutes. Our first passes of the OC would always be 5-6 minutes long. Our first passes of Chuck have been up 10, 11, 12 minutes long sometimes, which a lot of editors on other shows would even laugh at that. Mm-hmm. You guys are lucky, but so that was an interesting kind of switch, and just trying to figure out how do we get it back down to time with all that. But somehow it hasn't been that tricky. If we were 10 minutes over on the OC, we would be freaking out.
Oh yeah.
Some reason the time comes out on this show a little bit easier. I can't really pinpoint why, because there's definitely a lot of great stuff that we would like to keep, but a lot of it's just like focusing in on the story, and it gets better.
Mm-hmm. And so, what would you say have been some of your favorite experiences working on the show?
Working with the guys, working with the writers. We have a great writing staff. They're a lot of fun. They have a lot of energy. So and they bring it into the room, and and they're very, very smart. They really know how to navigate the show, and how to improve it. When they see it on screen, and what's working, what's not. I'm trying to think if there's any like specific experiences. I don't know.
Now, one thing fans love to hear about is behind the scenes sort of like scenes that were cut. For instance, storylines that may have actually changed or been out of order. Anything in particular that stands out?
Well, one thing, probably our most heartbreaking scene that we cut was this scene with Harry Tang, in sort of a job interview situation. It was episode 5 of the first season when he had to defuse a bomb that was under the Santa Monica Pier, and Harry Tang had this interview scene with this guy from Buy More Corporate, and he was, I think it was a Halloween episode actually, and he was in this cowboy outfit, and he just went nuts on this guy, like slamming his hand down on the table. I think it's on the DVD. Mm-hmm. I just remember sitting in the editing room, and one of the guys throwing it out there, just like, look, I hate to say this, but I think the scene should go, just in terms of like narrowing. We were trying to really narrow in on the Chuck story, and it just seemed to like break up the action. Mm-hmm. And every one of us we're just like, yeah, you're right. Damn it.
I remember seeing that scene, so I think it was on the DVD, luckily. I know they don't always end up on the DVD.
Yeah.
Over the course of the 2 seasons now, what would you say were your favorite episodes to cut?
Season 1, I think my favorite episode, season 1, that I cut was one that where the Russian, the one that when Casey was involved with the Russian spy. It was kind of Casey's romantic storyline, and mm-hmm. and it was actually Josh's idea to put Love on the Rocks on it.
Oh, I love that.
On the Rocks on there, and that came along way later in the process, and it was just a blast to put that in. Like and then we brought it back when he came out of the pool.
Uh-huh.
I like it. Josh just comes up with these ideas sometimes in the middle of things that you would never think of, and they're just awesome.
Yeah.
Then season 2, I really liked the Thanksgiving episode, which was the Gravitron.
Mm-hmm.
That sequence was a lot of fun to put together. Which was, they actually had. I remember seeing dailies of that were hilarious. They actually had Chuck and the guy who was after him on this Gravitron.
Oh, yeah?
And spun it around, but the dailies were silent. They didn't shoot sound for the one. It was actually one particular shot that they actually spun him around, and you see Zach and the guy just struggling and just giving it their all to act in this scene. And then you could tell when they yelled cut, because I mean the thing started slowing down, and immediately you just see Zach's face, just like, oh my God, I think I'm gonna die. It's just like, it's just heartbreaking. You just saw it in his face. He just wanted to die.
Oh man, I hope they didn't have to do multiple takes of that.
I don't think so. The other ones, the other shots in there were all like, they just kind of cheated things, or they they shook the camera and stuff like that. And I mean, it came out pretty well.
Oh, it definitely did.
Given all that, but given the fact that they only actually spun him around in I think one take, but yeah, I mean, cutting Zach is just great. I mean, the guy is such a trooper. He really, you can just tell, like, watching the dailies, what a team player he is. I mean, he's, if he'll suggest, like, I want to do that again, or was I looking in so and so's camera, or was I supposed to be looking this way or that way? And you can tell that he's really sharp and on top of things, like while he's acting and while he's up there doing his thing.
Now, is there a lot of ad-libbing? I know a lot of these guys are good at stand-up and good comedians in their own right.
Yeah, there is a fair amount of ad-libbing. A lot of the Morgan, a lot of the a lot of Zach stuff, and a lot of it makes it into the show. I'm trying to think if there's anything right now. I don't know.
Mm-hmm. Do any of the cast members actually ever make it down to the suite and see the cuts in progress?
Not as much as you'd think. Unfortunately, the sets are the stages we shoot on are way on the other side of the lot, so it's a good 15-minute walk just to get there. Yeah, I mean, they're so busy. Yvonne came into my suite one time with wanted to hang out with the director, and it was the one time I met her. She's really cool, and even more gorgeous in person, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, they don't really make it down too much.
Mm-hmm. Now, without speaking spoiler talk, what's your impression of the third season so far? I'm
really excited for it. I mean, I'm sure that a lot of people have heard that we've had to make some budget cuts this season, but from what I've seen so far, it doesn't show. I mean, these things are being pulled off great. I mean, we have a fantastic director working on this episode I'm doing right now, named Peter Lauer, and yeah, I mean, this episode so far is like, from my perspective, it's coming together pretty smooth.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's going to be an awesome season. I mean, I know these guys got a lot of big plans for what they want to do, and we'll see how it shapes up. But I think it's going to be pretty sweet.
Sure, can't wait to see it. So, stepping outside of Chuck a little bit, what's your impression of the fan reaction to Chuck? When you first started the process, did you expect that it was going to be what it ended up being?
It's always so tough to tell, and I remember some of the times when you're putting together these episodes, you're just like, is this working? And I remember Norman telling me that he and Barber were at one point during the pilot process, were just so into it. He just stepped back one day and just said, "Is this good?" Just because it's such a, I don't know, it's got so many levels and emotions and whatnot, and you're trying to navigate, but the process, it's so rewarding to see how it's all come together, and every episode's a challenge. But anyway, I'm getting off a tangent here. Yeah, the fan reaction, the way I've seen it the most is in these Comic-Con screenings. We always, it's always fun to watch the Comic-Con screenings on YouTube and see the reaction. I mean, just how into it these guys are. It's just amazing.
Yeah. Do you ever check out the fan websites and forums, things like that?
Not too much, actually. Josh will always send us emails if there's like a really cool fan reaction to something or critic reaction, and that's a lot of fun. That's another thing is, like, the critics, as far as I know, seem to have really, like this show a lot. My grandma's always sending articles to me in the mail from the Detroit Free Press.
Yeah.
Stuff like that. So yeah, it's great.
Yeah. Very cool. Yeah, it seems like the fans are behind it, critics are behind it. Now let's just make sure that NBC is behind it. Yeah,
exactly. And they are, actually. NBC really likes it.
Mm-hmm.
And they've been great. They've been really kind of pushing for it and just trying to keep it going.
Yeah. Well, we hope it goes a long, long time.
Yeah, we all do.
hopefully Chuck will go 7, 8 seasons. But where do you see yourself going after that? What are your aspirations?
I don't know. It's tough to say. Or this is kind of. I've been working with Josh now since in some form or another since 2002, and I love our collaboration, our team, and I'd like to think that I could do some more stuff with Josh, but I don't know what he's got in the pipeline in terms of TV shows for the next couple of years anyway. But I don't know. Otherwise, just kind of get out there and meet some people and see what I can. I just was able to work on a pilot for a short time this spring. Met a great group of people doing that. It was this CW pilot, and yeah, I don't know. We'll just kind of see what happens, I guess.
Cool. And do you have any other projects or charities that you'd like us to plug for you? I noticed that there's I guess it's a short film that's up on IMDb, waiting. Oh
yeah. That's something I worked on a couple of years ago, just at my house, by a director named Lisa Demain, who actually just got this great group of people together to basically do this movie for free.
Wow.
And it was a lot of fun to work on. It was kind of one of these experimental, avant-garde-ish kind of movies, but it was just a fun thing to do on the old hiatus, and got into a couple of film festivals here and there.
Mm-hmm. And just for the listeners, if you go to imdb.com and look up Jeff Granzow, you can actually see the full movie there. So you can check out some more of Jeff's work there. Yeah, it's cool. right up at the top of your IMDb page.
Yeah.
So
nice.
Very, very cool. Well, really, really appreciate you taking the time. I think that's about all that I have, unless there's anything else that you'd want to share.
No, I think that's about it.
Cool. So that's all I have. Good luck, good luck chucking. Good luck editing the next few episodes of Chuck, and we'll see you soon.
Thank you.
Great. Thanks so much.
All righty.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
And we're back. And part 3 of our editor series will be hopefully next week, before or after the new year. Not sure how the release schedule is going to be, but it'll be soon. Cool.
I'm really enjoying hearing the intricacies of putting all of the show together. It's just, there's so much going on that making it all fit and become the episodes that we know and love has to be a challenge. Yeah. So that's all we have for the non-spoilery stuff. I want to remind everybody, if you want to be on our email list to remind about voting and new podcast releases, you can send an email to mail@chuckpodcast.com. And there's still time to order the Chuck Season 2 DVD at Chuckazon. And we can always use your donations, or if you'd like to buy podcast-themed merchandise, you can get information about all of this stuff on our website at chuckpodcast.com and also chucktv.net.
If you have any questions or comments to share, please email us at mail@chuckpodcast.com.
And remember that you can also send audio questions as well if you want to email them to us. We'd love to hear them. And we want to remind you to check out our sponsors. We're very thankful to have Movie Morons Podcast and SyrianJunkies.de sponsoring our podcast in part. And that's all we've got for the non-spoilery stuff. So we want to wish everybody a very happy and safe holiday season, and we'll see you next week.
Have a great one, everybody.
Happy holidays, everyone.
Bye-bye. And we're back. Liz, you've got some spoilers for us.
Yeah, we have a smattering of spoilers for later in the season, including the title for episode 3.11, which is going to be Chuck versus the Final Exam. And we have some set photos for 3.12, and they show Chuck carrying what appears to be an unconscious Shaw away from a building. Dun, dun, dun.
Yeah, I can't quite figure out what's going on there.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be interesting. And I wasn't expecting Shaw to still be around in 312.
Yeah, that's quite a long stretch.
Mm-hmm. It is. In other news, TV Guide's Megabuzz reports, straight from Yvonne Strahovski, that Chuck's training will bring to light new information about Sarah's start in the biz, including her real name.
Mm-hmm.
So, in the process of Chuck becoming a better trained spy, we'll be learning more about Sarah. And, of course, we know that we're going to be learning more about Casey, too, from previous spoilers. So it's all about discovery this season, it sounds like.
Mm-hmm. And in casting news, Mark Sheppard joins the show for episode 312 and possibly more. It's a mini Firefly reunion as Mark guest starred on the show that starred Adam Baldwin. And he's one of those guys that's worked on pretty much every show. So it's a reunion for anybody that's worked with him in the past. Probably be difficult to track all that down.
That's true. He's one of those guys. He's on every show.
Yeah. And so now we are going to talk in general about the first couple of episodes. I've only seen 2 so far. Mel's seen 5.
Mm-hmm.
But I would say they are awesome.
You know, they're starting off the season brilliantly. I mean, there's such strong episodes to start the season. I'm really pleased with that. And I have to admit, as I was watching them, I was just amazed at how much better this season is, considering I thought season 2 was pretty spectacular.
Mm-hmm.
I really didn't see how they could make it all that much better, but it is. It's just, it's better in every aspect. The acting is more competent. The writing is more mature. Everything's good. Everything's really good.
Yeah. And speaking of mature, there's a logical progression to the characters, but they're still remaining true to what we love the most about them. Like it's logical that Chuck isn't going to stay the same Chuck as he gets these new abilities, as he just has more experience with the team. So, but what it does is, what I find it's raising the stakes for everything. They can get involved in much more significant trouble.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, trouble that affects more of his life too, especially now that Captain Awesome knows he's a spy. We know that he's drawn into the action a little bit more, and that is another way for Chuck to be vulnerable. Mm-hmm. For to have his brother-in-law involved in the spy world a little bit.
Yeah.
And and just in general, the stakes are higher. You're right.
And yet more opportunities for Morgan and Ellie to interact.
Yeah, bless their hearts. The bromance is going strong. I know there were some concerns when it was revealed that we would be getting more bromance moments, that we would be seeing Chuck and Morgan spend more time together. Some people were saying, "Oh, but we don't like Morgan. We don't like the bromance. We don't want that to take over." Don't worry, it's not taking over. It's just enriching the show, in my opinion. Mm-hmm. I was pleased with how all of that was being carried out, and it just enriches the show. Yeah. There's a lot of, did you notice that, Gray? There's a lot of, especially in the first 2 episodes, kind of calling back to the first season. Mm-hmm. Now that we're in season 3, they have a pretty rich mythology that they can pull from. Mm-hmm. And, tie things back, just acknowledging that these characters have had these experiences. And, the most obvious, of course, being the return of Karina in 302. And we get to see her and Sarah's friendship a little more in depth, which is nice. It's nice to see Sarah with a friend. But there are just lots of little inside jokes, not just the spastic colon that we see in one of the previews, but there are quite a few inside jokes. Yeah. And just references for the fans from the beginning. I really appreciated that. And I thought it added a nice extra layer to the show as a whole. Mm-hmm.
And yet, I do think so. You could drop somebody right into the season 3 premiere, and it would still be entertaining for them, and they would be able to follow along. They might not get all the nuances and inside jokes, but it would still be very, very entertaining.
Agreed. And there are enough callbacks to other things that happen. There are enough kind of one-off, what people sometimes call a throwaway line, to explain this or that. Referencing things that happened in season 2, in particular, towards the end of season 2, to help anybody who's new and might be wondering, okay, now what's the significance here? There are just these little references to kind of help tie that together, explain things a little bit for somebody who's new, while also giving the veteran viewer a little reward for knowing what it means.
Mm-hmm. And we wish we could talk in more detail.
Boy, couple more weeks.
Yeah.
Couple more weeks.
Yeah, very, very soon. But the advantage of these press kits is it helps us to be very, very prepared when the season actually does come. So we'll be able to talk more in depth once we see the episodes live.
Mm-hmm. And, of course, you can go check out chucktv.net for my little more in-depth preview from the first 5 episodes.
Yep. Cool. Yeah. Well, so that's all we got for this week. And want to, again, thank everybody for listening. Don't forget to vote at Podcast Alley. And we'll see you either before or after the new year.
And again, have a safe holiday.
Take care.
Bye-bye.